How's it going, everyone? As always, my name is Jimmy Champagne. This is the early week update here on PSReady. And of course, I've got 3 great topics to cover with you guys today. First one is that your PS5 is about to become the ultimate hall monitor. It's literally going to read your emotions while you're playing games. The second story is that everything is coming to PS5 now. The war is over. And the third story is about game sales, but this time I'm not going to mix up revenue with copies sold because my brain fog has lifted from the insane COVID that I had last week. All right, let's jump into this first news story here, which covers yet another Sony patent that they just filed. And as we know from the past, when Sony actually goes through the effort to patent something, even if it doesn't come out in the form it was initially patented in, it usually comes out at some point in time. And what this new method would do would presumably use AI to track your emotions while you're playing multiplayer games with other people. And it would say, hey, this person seems a little bit pissed off. They're calling someone Junko or something like that. I'm going to ban them for 6 to 12 hours to give them a chance to cool down. So this AI or whatever model they're going to use would actively be monitoring everything you say in your games. We've heard about things like this before, but not from Sony. The last one that I remember being a big deal was when Activision tried to patent a way to listen to people while they were playing and then use that recorded footage to then ban them from whatever game they were playing. They also had a patent that was way worse in my opinion, that would track how you actually played a game like Call of Duty, and then it would put you with people who were better than you to encourage you to spend money on microtransactions that would give you boosts within the actual game to make you better at the game. So it would be a way to keep you on this treadmill where you never felt like you were actually improving at the game. It would use AI to matchmake you with people who are always significantly better than you, to the point where it would be able to track what you were specifically good or bad at in the game and then match you with people who could counter your abilities in the game. So while this one's not as far reaching as that, I personally don't like anything that monitors the voice that's coming out of my mouth in a game. And when I was growing up, the big meme is, you would never survive a Modern Warfare 2 lobby. And I don't necessarily want to go back to a time where it was that brutal, because that meme is barely a meme. It's just a fact. The people today would not survive Modern Warfare 2 lobbies from when I was growing up and playing that game on the Xbox 360. But there has been a shift in competitive games where now, instead of being for a hardcore user base whose only goal is really to get better at the game and talk some light trash to other people on the other teams, but now it kind of feels like every game, the vibe that they give off with their multiplayers, this is a place for you to gather with your friends and shoot them with M4s and call in airstrikes on them. But if you call them stupid or dumb or say they're bad at the game, that's a no-no, and you're going to get banned for a couple of hours so you can cool down and take a walk and maybe touch some grass. And while, yeah, the touching grass sentiment is good, I advocate heavily for touching grass, working out, exercising once in a while, I don't need to be hall monitored by something that costs $500 playing a game that costs $70. Let me play the way I want to play. And I'm talking about general trash talk, critiquing other people's playing ability. I'm not talking about any of the isms. Of course, I'm fine with that being banned, but it's all lighthearted at the end of the day, and it results in some great clip montage TikToks. Well, we've all been playing games like Stellar Blade, Rise of the Ronin, and Final Fantasy VII Rebirth. Sony's been on this weird path lately, especially with the PS5, where it seems like they're all about monitoring people when they play. It's kind of a conspiracy theory. It really is a conspiracy theory, but why does the DualSense have a microphone in it? The microphone is terrible. It's not even worth using. And why does the DualSense microphone default to on, right? It's weird that your microphone is always on when you're playing a single player game, a multiplayer game, pretty much anything. And you have to go deep into the settings to make it so that it's muted when you actually turn your console on, right? I'm putting on my tinfoil hat here for sure. But when you take stuff like that and pair it with this new patent, it's just I don't really like the way that things are going. I don't want AI to be used to monitor me while I'm playing games, whether it's to record my footage and use it to let me skip parts of the game that might be too hard for me, whether it's to track how hard a game is, and when I come up against a particularly hard boss fight, I don't want the AI to read that I'm bad at the game and then say, hey, it looks like you're sucking ass right now. Do you want to skip ahead from this boss fight and just go to the next part of the game? And honestly, that would be a bad system on its own, because if that boss fight was too hard, theoretically the way games are structured is they get more difficult as they go on. So the next boss fight would ostensibly be just as hard. And then once they introduce stuff like that, they can start charging for it. They can say, hey, you're having a tough fight with Millennia right now. Just pay $199 and you can skip that fight. We'll even give you the trophy that's associated with beating the boss. It kind of breaks down the integrity of playing video games. films, right? Like at the end of the day, there is a clear delineation line between movies and video games, and using AI to introduce factors that'll make it possible to turn a game into a movie that you can just watch, I'm not for that, and I don't think I ever will be. No, I know I'll never be for that ever. And then going back to this new pen, using an AI to track my emotions while I'm playing, that feels like just a weird invasion of privacy that's a step too far on the one hand, and on the other hand, it's totally unnecessary, right? Like if you're playing a game like Overwatch, that attracts a very specific type of community, you know, the community who does want the game to be a place to hang out with their friends. But if you're playing a modern military shooter like Call of Duty or Battlefield, I feel like that audience is a little more hardcore and the trash talk is almost warranted. Like that's part of the game, and I don't know if it's something that I just like because I grew up with it, but I definitely would miss it if every game was policing me 100% of the time I was playing, and honestly, it would remove the fun from a lot of the game for me personally. And I know it's just a patent, but like I said at the beginning of this story, when Sony patents something, that means that they're actively working on it and they want it to be a feature in the future. And as we've seen, they patented this feature that they just activated on the PlayStation 5 where it'll record your gameplay footage and upload that as community help. That was patented very recently, and it only took a little over a year for that to become reality in the PS5's ecosystem. And while at the beginning of the video I said your PS5 is going to start reading your emotions, but this is just a patent right now, I could definitely see this becoming a feature within this generation. This doesn't seem like something that's PS6 or even PS7 level of far out. It feels like something they could activate tomorrow if they get far enough on it. It's very rare that I actually actively hate something that Sony patents, but this is yet another thing where I'm like, stop going down this path. Stop trying to farm engagement. Stop making that the only metric you care about, because just like that feature where it's going to let you skip boss fights or particularly hard sections of a game, that's made with engagement. This is also made with engagement, because if you get trash talk for sucking ass at a game, when I was growing up, that just made you more mad and made you want to be better at the game. But it seems like now it kind of makes people not want to play the game anymore, which is an emotion that I just don't have. Like if someone's a dick to me in Destiny over voice chat when I play like a raid with randoms or something and I use Discord with them, I just laugh along and give it right back, and it generally results in me becoming friends with those people. It's a cool way to make friends. If you can take criticism, you can also give criticism, you know? Anyway, that brings us to our second news story, which is again about Xbox. I know that you guys only want me to cover PlayStation, but I'm doing my best to only talk about Xbox when it's actually relevant to PlayStation. And I'd argue that this news story has never been more relevant to PlayStation than ever. So you know the whole thing, they released 4 games. They said it was just a test. They're going to see how these games do, and then they're going to decide on future games going into the future. Well, Jez Corden over at Windows Central, who's a very reliable Xbox source when it comes to leaks, rumors, and everything else, he said that the tests went well, and going forward, pretty much every game that Xbox release is eventually going to come to PlayStation. The interesting thing though is that he said that it's not going to be like a hard set rule that these games have to come out at a specific time, like say like Starfield comes out last September, Starfield's going to come out on PS5 the following September, or Starfield 2 comes out, or Elder Scrolls 6, that's going to be day and date. It's a case-by-case basis in the sense that if the studio that's working on this game has the bandwidth to support both consoles, Xbox and PS5, and they want to release their game on both consoles day and date, they have that option. Or if they want to release the game, get the patches out, get the DLC out, and then release the game on PS5 a year later with all of the patches and DLC already included, they can also do that too. And this doesn't just cover new games like Starfield or Indiana Jones. They're going to go back in the catalog and start releasing games like Halo the Master Chief Collection, maybe even Halo Infinite, the Gears of War collection that's been rumored forever, Gears 6, anything that Microsoft makes, whether it's Forza Horizon 5 all the way down to Pentiment, it's going to come to PlayStation at some point. So what does that mean for Xbox hardware? Well, things aren't necessarily so bad there if you are an Xbox hardware enjoyer. Like on the surface, I think the Xbox Series X is a great console. I think objectively, it looks better than the PlayStation 5. I love the black obelisk. I think the operating system is great on it. With the games that it does play better, there are noticeable improvements where you can actually see the game looking and running better on that console. I think the online systems are a little bit better than what you get on PlayStation, and the voice chat features are a little bit bit easier to use. So I'm not an Xbox hater by any stretch of the imagination. So going into the future, you might be thinking that they're going to abandon hardware entirely, because if every game's going to come to PlayStation, where the biggest user base is, there's not really much of a reason to own an Xbox. But it seems like they're going the Valve route, and they're going to start making boutique hardware that's aimed at very specific audiences. Kind of like right now, where the Series X is aimed at the hardcore, the Series S is aimed at the masses because it's $350. Going into the future, you're going to have the same situation where they're going to have a hardcore console with a PC-like interface that's going to be able to sideload Steam so you can play your PC games on it, which is awesome. They're going to have an Xbox Series S style console that might not be able to run the games as high fidelity and at high frame rates as the Xbox Series X future device, whatever you want to call it. Then they're also going to have a handheld that kind of competes with the Steam Deck. And their goal ultimately is to just get you to buy Xbox games and give you ways to do it how you want. So if you already own a PlayStation, you'll be able to buy Xbox games there. If you already have a PC, you'll be able to buy Xbox games there. If you want a boutique PC style device that's going to be able to run games at a predefined set of settings, they're going to give you an option for that. Or if you're someone who likes the Steam Deck and you want an Xbox handheld that'll let you take your progress on the go, well, you're locked into Xbox Game Pass or buying games on that device on the Xbox store. You guys know I don't like the way Phil Spencer talks about this as this like be all end all of the future of gaming. I think that's just not the case. People clearly like playing games on PlayStation hardware. We're going to talk about that in the next story, but it does seem like a good future for Microsoft, right? Like they own so many games now through all the studios they've bought. They own huge franchises like Fallout, The Elder Scrolls, Starfield, Call of Duty. The list goes on and on. I mean, even in their own first party studios that they actually kind of brought up themselves, they have stuff like Halo and Gears of War and Forza. So they do have franchises that people want to play. They just haven't released any games in those franchises that people really want to go out and buy. So what they're saying is they're going to meet them where they're at and release the games there. And hopefully as time goes on, the game quality does improve. They realize that exclusives kind of do matter, and maybe they time gate them on this new Xbox console to kind of keep themselves in the race. Because I always want there to be a console competitor to Sony. I'm older, I'm 31. I grew up through the entire life cycle of PlayStation as a brand, and Sony is always at their worst when they're on top. Like the PS3 generation, as bad as the PS3 launched, not only did it give us some of PlayStation's best franchises of all time, but Sony was the most consumer friendly they've ever been. The combination of the PS3 not doing super well and the Vita not doing super well resulted in things like cross-buy, where if you bought a game physically for PlayStation 3 that had a Vita version, like PlayStation All-Stars Battle Royale, you not only got the disc with the PS3 version, you got a code in that box that gave you the Vita version for free. So if you were poor, like I was at the time because I was a college student, I could trade in that PS3 version of the game and have that little warmness in my heart that I still got to keep the game to play on PlayStation Vita. The sales were also better, the discounts that they would actually do on the PlayStation Store. And in the PS3 era, if you bought digital games instead of physical, they would give you a 10% discount on that game to save you the cost of them printing the disc. So there were tons of consumer-friendly moves they were doing in those days. And as the PS4 came out and it became the biggest console ever again, then you started to see them slowly dismantle all this like consumer goodwill they had built over that entire generation. And they kind of met in the middle. But as the PS5 generation has gone on and they've kind of strongholded Xbox out of the industry hardware-wise, they've gone back to where they were basically at the beginning of the PS3 generation, which was consumer agnostic, I would say. Like they're not consumer unfriendly compared to what they were in the PS3 era they are, but like they're just neutral. It's a weird situation. My first like true console after playing Game Boy and Super Nintendo most of my early childhood was the Xbox. So even though I'm a PlayStation fanboy at heart, I still have a little bit of a soft spot. Anyway, that brings us to the third news story, which is coming from Matt Piscatella, who runs what used to be, I think it's called Circana now, but it used to be called NPD Group. Basically what it is it's like an analyst firm that tracks how many copies a game sells over a period of time. So every month they release a report. This time he was talking about Helldivers 2, and he said PC has been a huge part of the success of Helldivers 2 in the US. With PC, Helldivers 2 is already the 7th highest grossing Sony published game in history. Without PC, it wouldn't currently rank amongst the top 20. Launching Helldivers 2 both on PlayStation and PC has been nothing short of a massive resounding success. So I think this is a good counter to all the comments I see whenever I talk about PC day and date being a fine idea, because it just shows that people want to play the games where they're at. And as long as they're not on other consoles like the Nintendo Switch or the Xbox Series X, I personally could not give less of a shit. Helldivers 2 is selling better on PC for sure, because I mean, at its heart, it's a hardcore PC ass game. Like all my favorite Destiny YouTubers like Aztec Ross kind of switched over to it when Destiny was in its down period leading up to Into the Light. And when you play it with the keyboard and mouse, it's like inarguable that you just get better accuracy and overall better frame rate and graphics when you're playing on a like healthy PC rig. So like I play the game on PC, but I would have played it on both, honestly. I bought it in both places, fully expecting it to be able to have cross save because Sony announced that feature. And then when the game came out, they were like, oh no, we weren't supposed to say that. It doesn't have cross save. That'll come in the future. It's still not there. And I would personally love to kick back on my couch and play this game on my big TV. And then when I'm playing not in matchmaking and I want to go play with my friends, head down into the basement, get on my PC, get in the Discord call with Dustin and Brad over at LSM and Locke and just get going on some Helldivers 2 action. Like I want the ability to be able to play in both places. And I feel like that's the maximum point that everyone's pretty much going to get to. I feel like having a PS5 and a PC is always the way to go, because while Helldivers 2 is a great example of a game that I think at least plays better on PC, there's plenty of other examples of games like Horizon Forbidden West, Last of Us Part 2, Ghost of Tsushima, pretty much any game out there that's single player, open world, and takes 50 or 60 hours to beat. There's no way in hell I'm going to play those on PC. I want to play those kick back on my couch at 60 FPS at a high resolution and just enjoy my night. That's made for the PlayStation 5, which will just be the model going into the future. It's just going to be some games are better on PC, some games are better on PS5, but there's always going to be a reason at the end of the day to own a PlayStation 5. But yeah, that about does it for this episode of PS Ready. Let me know what you think down in the comments below. Remember to subscribe and set your notifications to all if you haven't already. As always, my name is Jimmy Champagne. I'll see you in the next one. Thanks for watching and shape on.